Hey guys, welcome back to the DX Gamer Show and my Stardrive Let's Play for Thursday, May 2nd, 2013. My name is OperationDx, and let's go ahead and get started on episode 7. In the last episode, we took out the Relay Devoted, but before they went down, they did a really sneaky attack on one of the brand new planets that I had captured, and I had to go and send some ground troops to recapture that. And here it is! The quadrazine offer their unholy alliance with the humans. Big mistake for them. That, of course, is going to give me that critical time that I need to knock the Polyps out of the game and go ahead and build up my forces. It seems that we played our cards almost perfectly in this Let's Play of Stardrive. As in the beginning, we were kind of powerful and we got all those remnant ships, but now we're kind of fallen behind, and then the quadrazine sees us as a non-threat, so they offer that alliance, and they didn't make the Volfran form into an alliance with the quadrazine or the Polyps. So now we have this critical time where we can just build up our forces, become really scary, and pretty much engage the Polyps, take them down, take their homeworld, and then we're going to be in prime position to make our next move. Now that we're allies with the quadrazine, we have full intelligence, and holy crap, their fleet is scary compared to mine. Man, by the time we get to them, they're probably going to be even more scary, so we got to do our attack on the Polyps swiftly. But yes, they have a ton of ships. They got them at both planets, and they have two really good planets in their starting system. One is an ultra-rich, which is freaking nuts. And that's pretty much probably why they're able to pull ahead. It doesn't look like their other planets are anything too special, but their home system is epic. With those two huge planets, they are pretty much running things from the beginning, and they're able to just do some crazy stuff. Another one of the things that have really kind of given us a nice advantage is the fact that we weren't in war with any of these races before we engage them. We pretty much get on top of them with our fleets, they see our fleets and have to engage. Although both the Relay and the Dreylock Council pulled a sneak maneuver, however, for the Dreylock, it wasn't something that was very successful, and they only had the one world, so they had to come back and defend their planet. However, the Relay had a couple of planets they were able to actually penetrate my systems and take over one of my worlds, which I had to backtrack and take them down, which was pretty interesting, and I like to see that. Although, you know, like I said, it does expose a bit of a weakness in my empire, as none of my planets are really guarded, so I really got to think about building up some troops and transferring them between systems, so that way when I do engage the bigger races, I'll have a little bit of a defense in case they try to pull the same maneuver, because their fleets are actually much bigger. And also, the fact that the quadrazine is #1 in this game in science and technology. They're far ahead of me in research, so basically, I need to be mindful of that when I decide to engage them. So we're probably going to have a little bit of downtime before we go ahead and engage the quadrazine, but we'll worry about that a little bit later. Because the Polyps are really far from our empire, they're basically on the entire other side of the map, it's going to take me a little bit to get into position, and like I explained in the earlier episodes, I don't tend to use the time acceleration too often, and sometimes I'll forget things, and when I do the time acceleration, I'll be like, oh crap, what did I just do? I forgot to build all this stuff. So I like to sit here, and even though I'm watching my fleets go in, I like to think about what's going on. I like to think about what my next move is, the status of what my colonies are and what they're doing. At one point, I'm going to think about specializing and knocking down my research, and then getting my production going and that sort of thing. So these are all the things that kind of play. However, things have calmed down a little bit from the earlier stages of the game, because in the early stages, we're literally doing like 5 or 6 things at once by watching all the planets that are getting uncovered, and by sending our ships out, and we're trying to strategically place them in locations and stuff. Here we only got a few things going on. Basically, we know that we've got to take on the Polyps, we got our fleets moving into position, and then the secondary task here I'm working on is getting my troops spread out through my empire, just to make a low level of defense. And you know, there's not a ton of like housekeeping things to be doing right now. But also, I'm kind of thinking at this stage, am I going to build another group? I'm probably going to need another group of those Corvettes because I like to play it safe, and now that our first group is a little less relevant, we're not going to send them into this combat. We're basically going to just send a little bit faster ships up there because they are so far away, and it would take our first group forever to get up there, and I'm afraid that they'll just all die anyways. We'll save them as cannon fodder for the quadrazine fight. So because we are once again going in blind, we're not playing all our cards at this time, but I do want to have another group of those Corvettes. So we're going to go ahead and create a group 4 and basically just slap down some more Corvettes down in here in the grid, and then we'll just hit requisition and build, and that will just give us another nice group as we just finished building our third battle group, which consists of all these very same ships, these Corvettes. And they're not uber as far as technology. They were what I could build at this time, but I needed something to replace what I had out there. So basically, we're just slapping together a cool design, which I always like to do. I like to, spend a second and, do a nice little cool pattern with these. They don't always follow the pattern, but sometimes when they're parked, they follow these patterns. It's kind of cool to, identify, from the higher levels of the map when you zoom down into them what group they actually are without actually having to click on the number. Because that's another thing you do. Typically with strategy games, you have groups. You just click 1, 2, or 3, and you can see what groups and what ships are where and that sort of thing. But essentially, you want to try to keep these ships all together in a group and stuff. So another thing, once again, cannot get old. Basically, just hit requisition and build, and then all the planets with production. Build those ships, and then wherever the first one comes out, I can just move them into position, and then all the other ships will follow and pretty much form up in that position. It's beautiful. It's a great system. Okay, so this was basically an accident as I was spreading my troops out through my planets for defense. I uncovered one of the mines, so this one actually didn't have any troops on it previously, and they uncovered one of the mines and a bunch of soldiers came out. So all these soldiers are now being attacked. Fortunately, though, I sent a big group off to defend this planet. This actually may have been a situation because, as you can see, this planet is much more developed than some of my other ones, and it would be a shame if this one got beat up. It would definitely kind of set me back really badly. But no big deal. Situation taken care of. We got all of our troops there. We've got 4 groups there of troops, so we're okay. We're okay. Man, that would have been terrible. I'm of course not going to let that discourage me, and I will continue to send soldiers off to my other planets for defense. Because if you notice, when I bombard the other races' planets, they have a ton of soldiers on their homeworld. Just think about if they would just jet those soldiers off and I couldn't catch them, and they all invaded my systems and I didn't have any defenses, they would just easily capture planet after planet, and that is just no good. So we definitely need to make sure that that does not happen in the later stages of the game. You may also notice towards this later stage, I'm kind of getting relaxed with my spies and I'm not training them as often because they're already pretty high level and I have a ton of them, and I don't see it as something that I'm going to need to invest too much more time into. If I have a really tough fight with the quadrazine, I may send my spies as a aggressive attack tool, but I may not do that. That's something that you may not get to see the other aspects of in this Let's Play. Although I should do it, I'm probably done. I basically really use the spies in this game as a defensive measure and not really as an offensive tool. Although they are an effective offensive tool, and don't kind of neglect them because they do, do good things. But we're playing this game all combat based, and I don't want to weaken the enemies too much. I want to basically give them the full chance to do these epic battles because I want to see some big battles take place before this is over. Although, if things do go badly with the quadrazine, I probably will be using spies in a very aggressive manner because that will be the only thing stopping them from pretty much wiping me out. That and my production. As long as I have specialized before I engage the quadrazine, then I'll probably be okay if my first attack fails. But that's probably why the next episode is going to be a preparatory for the big oncoming battle and the ultimate betrayal that's going to take place. So here you can see I've begun my nice staging point for the engagement with the Polyps, and you can basically see I have group 3 here and group 2. and I'm waiting for Group 4 to build, and that's going to take a little while. And while that's going on, we're just going to do a couple more things. But you can see some of these ships here coming inbound, and like I was saying in the other episodes, I don't like how the ones behind don't always make best speed, and sometimes you've got to babysit them. And then here we have Group 1 just kind of sitting there sadly in the back, as we're going to use them as candid fodder for the quadrazine. But that's going to be a little bit yet. So as I was talking about spies, I figured why not, let's go ahead and throw a couple more levels on some of these guys. We have a couple of decently high levels. They maximize at level 10. And these guys are a little above 5. They're pretty mediocre, but we have not had any damage done to our empire through spying. I think we have enough of a defense. And because we've probably scared some of the other races with our initial buildings, you can see now let's take another look here at the quadrazine fleet. And yeah, they're still looking pretty meaty here. So they have quite a few frigates already. I don't see any cruisers yet, which is a good sign. I don't know if they'll get some cruisers out before we actually engage. I kind of hope they do, though. I want the battle to be absolutely ridiculous. I want it to be so ridiculous that we're going to be losing a little bit of frame speed, and we'll go ahead and we'll set that fight down to half speed just so we can watch it real time and cleanly, because sometimes with these bigger battles in this game, it is kind of crunching down in your system a little bit, and you probably will get a little bit of frame loss, although I haven't really experienced that too badly in this game. It does kind of happen with the very large engagements, and we'll try to curve that as much as possible to have it run smoothly. And then I'll probably just run some music or something while we do that big battle. I'll probably pick one of my tracks, something hopefully fitting, and you know, that's probably going to be a nice couple-minute battle, maybe 5 or 10 minutes, which will be pretty cool to just sit back and watch a giant space battle, and hopefully that'll be the pinnacle moment of this Let's Play series. Well, I can tell that things are really starting to come together as we're starting to get a nice, decent amount of research, a little over 20 per turn, and a little over 20 per turn with gold, which is great. I hope to see somewhere in the hundreds per turn as far as the research by the end of this Let's Play, and we should be able to jam out some of those higher end technologies. And like I was saying in the previous episodes, I'm not sure how far along we're going to get. It really is going to be dictated by how the confrontations go with the other races. However, before our engagement with the quadrazine collective, we are definitely going to make sure that we get the remnant technologies researched. We're going to use those along with some higher tier shields to build some advanced frigate class ships, and that will probably be the backbone of our major fleet as far as when we engage the quadrazine. Even if they have higher tier ships like cruisers, you'll see with the way I like to build those, they're going to be very tough ships to take down. And with the added bonus of the remnant technologies, we can tighten things into smaller spaces and fit more stuff that's going to do more damage and make them even more powerful, which is excellent. And I'm really glad I get to show you guys that during this Let's Play series, as that's one of the main things that I wanted to definitely happen while we do this. And sorry guys, there's not a lot going on in the front parts of this episode. I'm just basically staging my fleets and doing a little housekeeping throughout my empire. Oh, Polyps. I feel sorry for you, buddy. So they're doing things out of desperation here. They want to form an alliance with me, which at this point is not something I'm willing to do because we're about to take them down. Truly, their only hope for survival in this game is to ally with the quadrazine. Look at the desperation of the Polyps. They want open borders. Sorry guys, not gonna happen. Don't you see the giant fleet sitting just outside your system? Well, perhaps I suppose not. We're out of their radar range at the moment. We're just outside their reach there, and they just can't see us. Although, I don't know if this game works like other games. I haven't really noticed or played it, I guess, enough to see. It's really well hidden, but the AI doesn't seem to know exactly the locations of all your ships like every other AI and every other strategy game. I suppose they probably do. I mean, it's pretty much the way AIs normally work, but I haven't seen any evidence of that in this game, which is very good, because I hate that, like in other games, especially with Company of Heroes 1. I had a real bad problem with them because basically they fire their artillery on units that were in fog of war, and they couldn't see those units. And the fact that you shouldn't have been able to do that in that game, because in fog of war you couldn't fire your special weapons on targets, but they managed to do it anyways. So that's one of the things that just irritate me about strategy games, is when the AI knows exactly where you are and they do everything to pretty much try to counter that thing. Now, it is a good thing if it adds difficulty in a degree that makes sense, but if it's something where the AI is outright cheating and the AI is outright cheating, that's why it's just kind of more fun to play games multiplayer, because you get that human element, but you also know that they're following the same rules that are defined by you would hope. However, that's kind of what the difficulty slider should be for. Basically, if you want the computer to outright cheat and make the game much harder on you, that's what the difficulty bar usually is in RTS games, and pretty much what it is in this game. And those are the kind of things that I actually like to do in RTS games when I don't find the game challenging anymore, and just for that sense of accomplishment, I beat the game on the hardest difficulty level or whatever, and that is just something fun to do every once in a while. I considered possibly, because we have the quadrazine in this Let's Play, to rescue the owls from the quadrazine, but I'm not going to do that because that would pretty much cripple them. And oh yes, you can rescue the owls from them. They rebel, and like half their empire goes into this rebellion, and then you try to make sure that the owls come out on top of the whole thing. It's kind of cool. It appears that we have most of Group 3 into position, and Group 4 is inbound, so I think we're going to go ahead and get this confrontation started. If things go badly, we have Group 4 as a backup to come in here and try to mop things up. So we're going to go ahead and get Group 2 and 3 into position, and hopefully that will be enough to take down the Polyp's main fleet. Very shortly, we're going to see what's what as our ships drop into the Polyp's main system with their only planet. Wow, they really didn't do any expansion at all. Very surprising. And as you see in the shadows there, it looks like they have a pretty nice sized fleet. Can't quite tell what that consists of, but we'll see right now as we move our third group into position. And then I'll just be quiet as the battle goes ahead and ensues. It won't be much longer as the bombardment continues, and that will mark the end of the Polyp Empire in this Let's Play series. If you're curious about the music that went on during that battle, it is the third track in my new album that I've been working on. I have not released it yet, but that is just something I'm working on. If you're interested in checking out more of my music, I do have a SoundCloud. The links are on my main YouTube page. I also have links to Bandcamp where you can purchase my albums for really cheap. And of course, that all goes towards supporting my channel. Anyway, now that research is kind of cruising by, we're going ahead and get a couple of good researches going here, especially that one that gives us that ammo generation module, and that's great for like the bombers. Of course, that right there was the deuterium fuel cell that makes them 50% more efficient. When I say them, I mean the fuel cells, and finally I went ahead and grabbed a better laser system, the fusion lasers, and of course we'll be climbing down that tree and making our ships more and more and more powerful. With that explosion, that pretty much makes the last of the Polyp fleet, unless they're doing a secret thing like the other two races did. We won't be seeing any more of their ships, and of course we're just bombarding their planet, and they will be the third race that will be erased from this Let's Play series. Again, I'm kind of surprised that the Polyps really didn't expand past their homeworld. They had their colony ships still sitting in port around their planet when we came in here with our fleets, which I find very surprising. Maybe there just wasn't anything to work with in this area. Well, I mean, that's kind of how it works in the game, though. Like, if you don't have anything locally, you've got to seek out and find yourself a better planet. And that's pretty much how I usually run things. Fortunately for us, our empire had a couple of really great planets, even though they were remnant guarded, next to our home system, and that really gave us a big boost. So perhaps they just got a really crappy start and they couldn't do anything about it. But this is pretty much, they're the worst race in the game. I mean, even the Dreylock got themselves a couple of planets before they went down, and they even pulled like a fast, quick maneuver there with another colony ship, and then the Relay had 3 planets but only 2 star systems. And you can see on the mini-map, though, as time passes, with the quadrazine and the Volfran are expanding very rapidly. And I don't know if the quadrazine are going to keep moving up into the northern or eastern or western areas of the map. That's something that we'll have to see, but it seems like they have a pretty good solid production, especially with that ultra-rich planet. They're just going to be able to crank out the units, which is a little scary because I don't think we have anything quite like that. They pretty much could probably operate as if that's 2 or 3 planets with the ability to pump out ships very, very frequently, and they're probably only held back by the amount of income they're getting per turn. However, with the Polyps, logistically, it's actually kind of good for us that they don't have too many planets, because we were able to easily knock them out with their first tier of bombing runs. Although, you know, the speed on the bombers is really quickly, but if any of them get damaged again, you have to sit there and babysit, and it can become very tedious to try to knock them down. But this planet is, you know, highly populated, so it does take a little while to knock them down. And there it was, the confirmation basically telling us that the Polyps have been defeated. So we can basically send all of our ships back to our home systems as we make preparations for the biggest conflict in this game. And check this out, the Polyps broke an attachment off with a bunch of ships to try to engage one of my planets. Again, not defended, but I defeated them before their ships could actually make any progress into that system, and now they're all pretty much dead vessels. They're indicated by white by saying their empire's been defeated, and they're pretty much going to sit there the entire game and do nothing unless I actually go over there and blow them up. But we're just going to leave them alone, and we'll just leave them as a reminder that once the mighty Polyp Empire existed in this Let's Play. And again, standard operating procedure, basically captured the Polyp homeworld, and on the diplomacy screen you can see that we only have 2 other races left, and all the other races have been defeated. From this point, there's going to be quite a bit of downtime as we tech up our civilization and build our more advanced ships and that sort of thing. So we're basically going to go into kind of a cold war with the other 2 races. Even though we are technically allies with the quadrazine, they are definitely our next target. And we can see that they have grown too big and too scary, and they're definitely the biggest threat to my empire, even though we probably could win the game if we took out the Volfrin. We don't want to make things that easy on ourselves, and we definitely want to see some of the later game stuff. So we're going to go ahead and engage them next. Now we're going to go ahead and throw in the 2 critical technologies that we definitely want to get done for this Let's Play. 1, the Class 3 shields, and 2, the remnant technologies, so we can get that remnant reactor. That tiny remnant reactor. Oh, it is so beautiful. Not only is it something that generates a ton of power, but it also doesn't cost a lot. And it doesn't detonate your ship when it explodes, which is a good thing because the higher tier reactor systems like the anti-matter reactor and the engineering bay, if those get penetrated, your ship is gone. So when you build those kind of ships, that's something you want to make sure that you protect it with several layers of protection, not only with internal bulkheads, but with some of the armor technologies that I haven't quite researched yet. You just want to cover that thing with layer after layer to make sure that it doesn't take damage in the fight. You want your ship to be pretty much wiped out before that last thing goes down, because if they get through to that and you have your nice fancy ship penetrated, that thing will go down hard and you'll lose your super expensive ship. Not to mention that the ships that are carrying those modules are probably very expensive, took quite a little while to build, and it's something you definitely don't want to lose. However, in this Let's Play, if we do build a higher tier ship like the cruiser or battleship, we're probably going to end up using the remnant reactors. What I like to do is power each module with little remnant reactors around the ship. And then, you know, when it gets penetrated or blown up, you know, those reactors just go offline. If they get repaired, you know, no big deal. And there's no big, you know, failings for that kind of thing. But I also pretty much defend my ship mainly with shields. And there are kind of shield penetrating weapons and stuff. But those bigger ships can take a little bit more damage. And I also make sure that I have weapon systems pointing in every direction. Bow and aft, port and starboard. I make sure that weapons guard every area of the ship. And then, you know, if things get turned around, you get things behind you and stuff, it's not a big deal because you'll still have DPS on them. Now that does, of course, like lighten the load on your DPS on your ship overall, but as long as you keep DPS coming out in every direction of the ship, it makes the ship quite effective. So real quick, I'm going to go into the diplomacy of each of the 2 races and see what their status and mood is. So he's got a slight anger bar there, and that was probably from me taking out the Polyps, but he still trusts me in a large manner. You saw that with the green bar, pretty much maximized. And then with the Volfrin here, they pretty much are just angry with us, but that's typical of their race. But doesn't look like they're angry enough at us to go ahead and come after us quite yet. Their mistake, but it's too late for them probably. If I were them, I'd be extremely sneaky and take the point where I actually engage the quadrazine to engage me, and that would like pretty much throw me off badly, but I doubt that they're going to do that. Something that was interesting too that we saw on the diplomacy screen is I am now on the top of the board as far as science and technology. So my research has surpassed the other 2 as I expected it would, and we have the highest tier research buildings out, the genetic research lab, which is the higher tier one, and that's going to give us a ton of extra research. And now we're pushing into the high amounts of research, and by the end of the game, like I said, we're probably getting about 100 or so per turn, maybe a little over. Something else that was showing is they definitely have the #1 military in the game, the quadrazine, and we have physical evidence of that as we just looked at their thing a little while ago, and they have a ton of ships. And like I said, they're probably going to have cruisers out by the time we actually engage them. It appears that Group 4 is still continuing to build, but we have not locked in our industrial worlds quite yet. That's probably something we're going to do during the beginning stages of the next episode. We're going to basically set our specializations between research and our industrial worlds so that we can really get these things cranking out, because these ships are probably not going to be adequate for taking on the quadrazine. Even though I'm still building them, they're pretty much going to be my initial kind of throwaway cannon fodder ships as I bring in my higher tier advanced frigates with the remnant technologies on them. We also have our Group 1, which is all our frigates we'll definitely be throwing into that fight. But sadly, they're going to be very similar to the Corvette Groups 4 and 3. Basically just cannon fodder, and those will go down as they try to defend my advanced remnant frigates. And we're just going to have to see how that all plays out. With our fleets returning from the engagement with the Polyps, that's pretty much it for this episode. Thank you for watching another episode of the DX Gamer Show and my Stardrive Let's Play. I'll see you guys Friday for the last episode of the week. Take care and have a great day.